a very, very generous donation made to me this past week. So I've been just ordering
Nice.
parts for the new build. So yeah, almost ready to start construction of the industrial version of my generator. So yeah,
Whoa. What kind of parts are you talking? What did you get in?
a lot of batteries, a lot of cable connections, voltmeters, EMF meters. Got the case. So yeah, a lot of stuff
Sweet.
coming in.
It's happening.
Epic. Do I go
Little
to
by little.
Faraday? Do I go to Faraday Research? Is that your YouTube channel?
Yep.
Yeah, making sure.
So I've been working on this motor generator for approximately 5 years. I started in the free energy stuff, I would say, about 2005. So I've been around a while. And have made a lot of advances in the last year on the device. Got it to the point now where the batteries that run the device don't run out of power. It's in the microwatts. So in essence, the batteries last forever, and it pumps out about 18 watts of power right now. I'm going to be scaling it up right now, so I should be able to get more power out of it. But it's the science of what happens with the spark gap. So I've been really studying the concepts of what Tesla was working with the spark gap, and what the spark gap actually does. And the reason why I use a spark gap switch for the first phase, I guess you could say, of the power coming into the system, which basically eliminates the circuit to a zero resistance situation. If you can achieve this, basically the motor is running off the voltage and not the current. The current is what the current draw is what kills the battery. So this device eliminates that. So now it's not drawing current off the battery, it's drawing the voltage. So the new systems can be running at 48 volts, but no current. And I'm still able to get it to a over unity situation when it comes out the other end. So I'm also big component in there is the piezoelectric transducer. That's another key component to the device, which nobody's been using. As far as I know, I'm the first.
Piezoelectric is like crystal, right? Like
yes,
and static energy, both of those.
It's creating, it's the reaction that happens when. Originally, the transducers were used for ultrasonic cleaning, and the piezoelectric effect is also, they use it if you press the transducer, it creates a voltage. Well, I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm actually forcing a huge amount of potential into the piezoelectric. And
wait, so you're not just using pressure for excitation?
No, I'm not using pressure at all. I'm hitting it with a high voltage spike coming off the coil.
Damn. Okay. This is the first time I'm seeing your stuff.
Yeah. So what happens is, in most motors of this kind, they have a situation called capacitive inductance. So you got the power in the coil, but the problem is it gets stuck in the coil.
Mm-hmm.
So when I add the transducer to it, all that power that's stored in the coil now comes basically blasting out. So I get it right now. I'm getting 18 to 1 power.
Really?
Gain.
Yeah. So my obvious next question: have you looked at scaling this?
Yes. Well, that's what the new unit is. This is basically the proof of concept model. That one there, and the new device is going to be. I'm hoping to get it up to about 1.5 kilowatt system. I do have a 3 kilowatt. Really? Yeah, I do have a 3 kilowatt system in the works that I'm actually going to scale it up to a 3 kilowatt system.
That's crazy. So, what's the price tag on this build?
Well, the one I'm building right now is going to be about 3,000. Yeah. The batteries are the most cost,
of course.
obviously.
What are you using?
Right now, I'm using the 12 volt motorcycle batteries. They're 11 amp hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I could run the system. Well, I ran it with, just to give you an example of the efficiency of it, I have a 500 farad 16 volt capacitor bank. Hook it up to the motor. It'll run the motor for almost 5 hours.
Wow.
So that means I'm extracting basically microwatts of power to produce electricity. So now that I got four 12 volt batteries, it'll be 48 volts when I hook it up in the circuit. And so as you go up higher in voltage, the requirements of current going into the system drop dramatically because I'm using a spark gap switch.
Yeah.
And because of the spark gap switch, the wheel that I use has 5 magnets. So for every revolution, that spark gap switch is firing 5 times.
Yeah.
And when you do...
Sorry to interrupt. Why do you choose 5?
Just testing. You get good results with 3, 4, and 5. If you go over 6 magnets, the pulses are too close together, and you don't get the zero resistance effect.
Okay.
So my motor runs... Sorry?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Because if the motor's running, say, 1,000 RPM, I find 5 magnets at 1,000 RPM seems to be enough milliseconds intervals between pulses. And it allows the current that's stored in that potential right when just before the spark gap switch fires. Tesla talks about it goes to a high resistance, and the actual mathematical formulas 10 to the 12th power of whatever coil inductor you're using. So when it does fire, that resistance goes to 0. So what happens is the amount of current going into the system now also goes to 0. And you're doing 5 pulses of that per revolution. Yeah. And it drops, the amount of current drawn from the batteries just goes down, gone. So if you can get your motor to run on microwatts, because I'm using lead acid batteries, I can run this for 4 hours, shut the motor off. Within 5 minutes, the voltage will go right back to where it started. It'll actually regenerate itself. It barely even notices the motor's there.
That's awesome. Yeah. Have you tried this with different batteries? Is there a type that you would avoid?
I would avoid lithium ion.
Okay.
Avoid that battery, but you can use lithium iron phosphate battery.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's lead acid works great too.
I was a fool once, and I ended up buying 3 medical batteries. So LifePo 4 medical batteries. I picked them up for a quarter of their natural price, but the BMS between them shares power. So for my purposes, it was good. But yeah, I don't have any of these batteries.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good batteries. They last forever. The LifePo 4 batteries are excellent batteries.
Well, the crazy thing about those batteries is that hospitals are on contract to renew the batteries of devices, even if they've never used them. So every couple years, you can check with your local hospital, and you can buy these batteries that pull a 98% charge, 95, 92% charge, and they're required to replace them. And they've never actually used them. They're just for emergencies.
For emergency. Yeah, I should look into that. I got a hospital about 5 minutes from me.
Yeah, cool. I found that out from Will Prowse, this little kid that's been doing he's been doing solar builds for almost a decade.
Yeah.
So what are we looking? We're looking here at an earlier version of the build, or
This is the one that I just completed, so now I'm moving on to the industrial version. I proved the
Gotcha.
concept, and yeah, hopefully in the next couple of months, I might actually try to get it validated by a professor from the University of Toronto.
Wow. And you said
So
it's about 18 watts?
this is 18 watts output
Dang,
right
that's
now.
awesome. I
Now,
could definitely run my laptop off of it. That's pretty sweet.
yeah, see, everybody, let's start with the power grid, for example. Okay, our power grid runs at 60 hertz. 60 hertz is probably the worst frequency you could ever run a power system on. It's parasitic for starters, which is like totally bad for the body and anything biological around it. The way
So
they generate.
isn't it kind of the story that Nikola Tesla presented, the 60 hertz cycle? Isn't it his system, or is that just propaganda?
Well, it was his system because the way they wanted to run it was a system that would basically kill itself. It's an inefficient system.
And
You know, the bank,
weaponizable, okay.
weaponizable, just to the point where it's inefficient and it forces the customer to keep forking out money. Right? You know, the bankers wanted that, and that's why they invested in it.
That's the planned obsolescence they worked into his functional system.
Yeah. So, like, for example, if we take our 60 hertz system right now and ran it at over 200 hertz, basically your power bill goes down by half. Right?
So we want a higher hertz.
Yes. And that's why Tesla always played in the kilohertz range.
Okay.
Because, number one, it's a lot safer to use, way more efficient, and when you get into the high frequency ranges, that's the only way you can achieve over unity. Can't do it at 60 hertz. So now the other interesting about this, and actually the ladies might actually find this interesting, where man or mind meets the machine. I've had several incidents where either I had a really bad day or I was distraught about something or upset, and I tried to start the motor and it refused to work.
Really?
Yeah.
Due to your anger and rage, or what? Is that
just my, you know, like if something bad happened or somebody really pissed you off or something like that, if you were in like a angry emotion.
What is your frequency?
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
I mean that's. I was going to ask if frequency could impact the ability of
well, he's
this,
talking
the
about
function of this,
frequency right
which
now.
is nuts.
Yes.
I know.
Earlier,
So
you were talking about hertz
I wanted
versus
to ask,
watts,
and you
right?
just answered my question already.
Do you want to explain?
But
I was going to go into
crazy.
Like hertz and watts, right? So
I didn't mean of the person though. I meant like the person's resonance. I meant applying a frequency. You know, the downtime when you said there's the 5-minute charge cycle or whatever kind of. Which this is incredible, by the way. This is blowing my mind. This is like a perpetual battery that, I mean, forever and ever. But is there a frequency, and what does that do to the power of the battery? And
frequency is how often something happens.
Or sorry, is there an auditory element to this? Could you play a sound? Could you play a hertz? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Can you play sound and extend?
Theoretically, you could have a lower wattage with a higher hertz, right?
Yeah,
right?
That's what you want to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
because frequency is how often something happens. You want to have it happen as often as possible,
correct,
and as little as of an amount of a unit as possible.
Yes, but I'm thinking auditorily, like vibratorily.
Watts per hertz is a unit of power spectral density used in the field
sound.
telecommunication. So the density of watts in hertz, or I mean, density of hertz. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where the piezo transducer comes in, and creates a high resonant frequency that resonates with the coil. And what happens is the coil goes into a hypersonic resonation state and amplifies the power by 18 times.
Holy. Just
I was going to ask you, when you're
right?
really high frequency, what do you observe? What's your observations when you come in just really happy, you know?
Yeah, like even Professor Harlick was talking about this, and he hit it right on the nail. And actually, the reactions also happen with water, and I'm into the structured water as well.
Mhm.
And you can basically change the anatomy or the DNA of the water just by thought. And that's really profound. That's actually blows my mind. Just to
So
wrap
the
my head
study
around
of
that.
That's why
this,
it's like praying over your food
It's
is so
real.
important. Like infusing your food in water before whatever you drink and eat. Like praying
Yeah.
over it, like putting out that energy and charging your food. You're programming it and then
Well,
ingesting it. Like
if you want to go biblical with this, look in the Bible. They use holy water. There's prayer of collective consciousness going into the holy water. Okay? So they were doing structured water back in, in the biblical era because
So
they
they're-
knew the water can retain information, healing properties to the water. And now this is actually coming out in real science. You can't change the frequency and the DNA structure of water just through prayer and thought, meditation. And I've been
it
exploring
harmonizes your
this
cells.
this journey. I started in 2005, and I've gone in 50 different directions because it's all related. The thing we have to figure out and we have to understand, and it doesn't matter if you're doing gravity, if you're doing remote viewing, you have to understand the true concept of what energy is. Until you can figure out the true concept and mechanics of energy, you can't do any gravity. You can't do half this stuff until you understand what energy is.
And it's across fields, right? Like,
it relates to everything. It cross fields into telekinesis, remote viewing, free energy. And
Yeah,
Do you
Julie
mean
has a remote.
electrical
Yeah,
fields, or do you mean what kind of fields do you mean?
I was talking
there-
ultra high and
there's
ultra low.
actually
Is that what you
two
said?
Ultra high frequency fields, or what do you? So
There's
yeah, I think she's still
actually
interested in
two
the science
fields
of
of study
frequency.
about this. First off, there's morphogenetics, and you guys have heard of that one, right?
That was very Reggie Watts of you. Y'all know.
Morphogenesis.
I'm talking about ultra high and ultra low frequencies
Okay,
and
so-
perpetual motors. That's my thing. That's all I want to ask.
Well, the first of the fields is morphogenetics, which seems a little more woo than the other. But the other field of study that directly influences this is biophotonics, actually.
Mhm.
And this is light information transmitted on a cellular level between creatures. This was first studied on an onion that was bisected top down so that the roots were on each piece. They were put at a 90-degree angle, a few inches apart, and just inside the visible spectrum of human sight could be observed ultraviolet light traveling between both root balls on the same thing. And this is the mechanism for cell apoptosis and mitosis of cells. And so literally you transfer light between each other and between other things. They used to say women can't touch light bulbs because they'll make them go out. And
I know some women
a
like
part
that,
of that.
I would say the universe. Like I feel like the universe is just photonic.
Oh yeah, but there is the mechanism that we can finally point to that validates every bit of arcana and esoteric and ancient knowledge.
Speaking
And
of,
we actually know.
There are a lot of illustrations out there from way back when where it's a character and you have beams coming out of their eyes and hitting something and then bouncing back off. And obviously, like, people all have been mocking this forever. Like, oh no, your light, like your eyes don't send out light that you then capture to see. But if you're thinking about quantum mechanics, then suddenly that starts making a little bit more sense.
Real Superman laser eyes.
Yeah,
Oh my
well,
God,
no,
I
it's
came across
your.
a being- I came
Yes,
across
Friday.
I've come across a lot of beings remote viewing, and one of them had a jade mask on, but one of them had lasers coming out of their eyes, and I wondered if that's why some of them wore jade masks, Like,
In Platonic physics, an I-beam generated in the eye was thought to be the responsible for the sense of light emanating the corpuscles. Added that part, but that's what Newton says later. The I-beam darted by the imagined basilisk, for instance, was the agent of its lethal power, giving the technical term extramission. So this is why Medusa and certain people's I-beams were like more powerful than others, and why the X-Men dude. Which one was the X-Men dude with the laser eyes?
Cyclops.
Cyclops. Yeah.
Bro just has Platonic physics, which is exactly what he would say.
As woo-woo as this may be, it's like there's real science behind it. And I also want to bring up like the auras or the halos that are pointed around so many ancient deities, saints, and
the Kirlian photography measures it, and you can
I
show
just
it.
put that in the chat. You can see auras.
100%.
Biophotonics explains it. The light transfer on a cell-to-cell basis is within the visible spectrum.
Yeah,
and that explains why cats run away when they walk in the room.
It's orgone energy. That's
yes,
the life force energy that Wilhelm Reich was studying for years. And it relates to energy, it relates to consciousness, it relates to every aspect of reality.
Yes,
until you understand.
Oh, continue. Sorry.
We have to understand what the ether is too. That's another area that a lot of people can't understand is the ether and how it works and how it
so
connects
Wilhelm
all
Reich's
of us.
measured this too. So he has the red energy and the blue energy. And it started with there's a lot of studies on the orgasm and whatnot when he was doing the research. But from there, he measured life energy, and he literally proved like life from nothing. He needed an organic material to start it with. And
Andreas,
so like
let Rife in.
And one
is Rife here?
No, he's not. I just texted him though. He's going to be here tomorrow.
But like so Reich has the data.
Yeah.
Oh, Reich.
Reich and Reich $50.
Oh, I know Reich and Rife are different. I'm talking about Wilhelm Reich.
While I'm pulling up Orgasmo, I'm so sorry.
His less known research. That's not the sexual stuff.
Absolutely,
it's the biological.
Yeah. Beautiful
and
Rife.
It's incredible.
Great, sweet Rife. Yes.
See, Wilhelm Reich.
His lab notes are incredible, and there's now people like microbiologists that are studying his work, that are taking apart his notes with Pasteur's notes and using a lot of his research. He did the Faraday cancer cages using orgone, studied all that, but his research on cell biology and the creation, spontaneous cellular creation, is incredible. And that's the stuff that nobody's talked about because everybody's talking about the sex research. So you have to dig into the diaries, and if Rife is here, he might have some. There could be some transcripts we haven't seen yet.
Let me do
I don't even know, but
one key component too.
Super chatted. If there was room for a guest right now, I will
send him. I sent him the link and
yes, he was. He is the whole show. What the heck? I thought he was like the
one key component that Wilhelm Reich used in a lot of his experiments was water. Water absorbs orgone. So the structured water machine that I actually use basically sucks up orgone energy. So when you create the toroidal or the vortex in the water, it's drawing that orgone energy into the water that I'm purifying.
Wow.
And that's why
you got to sell your water. Vortex water is like a thing.
Well, the device
principle behind orgone is ionic displacement, and so once you can learn ionic displacement, water is the perfect dipole for this.
Very much so.
And it's essential when you're doing research. He realized the things they were starting with in their enclaves were contaminated, so you needed to have organic water in anything you were doing.
Here it is. I just had Dolly draw pictures of Wilhelm Reich wrestling with Nikola Tesla, and as I said that,
oh my gosh,
Matt Rife, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, Andres. I was busy. I was at church, but I made it back, and I just replied to your message just a little bit ago. Thanks for letting me in, guys.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
Oh, always.
Which Simon wants to be in? You can't have both. Crazy Simon. All right, you have that one. All right, I'll let you have one. So let me go to the Rife technology for a second to give people
Rife
kind
is
of a backed up
back.
summary of what Rife's been doing. Rife has rekindled the spirit of his great uncle, Wilhelm Reich. Royal Rife. We were just talking about
Yeah.
Wilhelm Reich the other
Yeah, we're
second,
talking about the
so my
comms,
brain.
the
But we just
connections.
jump back and forth. However, it sounds like they
Cross-field
have correspondence,
connections.
which is something I should remind myself to remind you. We should talk about that later. We should get some of that.
Yeah,
But hey, you know what? Here's your YouTube, and you've got a bunch of amazing videos showing actually how to build the stuff that you're making available to the public. You can buy the stuff, you can learn how to do it yourself, basically, right here. And you've got people all over the world that are sharing in this interest for decades before this that we can compound the research of to make it even better than it was but the first time. So it's moving faster than ever before. I'm super grateful you're here. That's awesome. What's up,
Hey,
buddy?
welcome.
oh man, I'm super grateful to be here with everybody. I was just getting some clothes on. I was taking a shower after church, and I was listening a little bit. And man, you guys are just geniuses off the bar. Like I was,
Well, you're doing pretty good yourself, so don't worry. But
I'm gonna try to make it there. I've had some great compliments from electrical engineers, and I've done some consultations for people, and it's been a lot of fun just to be able to open up like this.
that's exactly what we're trying to get at. People are trying to build this stuff, and they're often told they're not supposed to. That it's weird. The FCC is going to get you. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about what it is that you're trying to build too. Like, what are these Rife machines to you for?
So at church, I've been just letting people use it. They come in and they've been seeing a benefit. The pastor's been seeing a benefit. He hasn't been able to feel his two first fingers. And then, it's been years since, because he works at a car dealership too, and he does like the special financing and everything. He said, I always had to use my other hand to be able to pull things out. And after that one session last night, I can just work, and it's great. So I've had family come down there, do things like that. And it's just been such a great experience. I can't even just compact it all down, but we're doing shows now. We're actually going to MD&M in February 6th to 9th in Anaheim. So we're going to be presenting there with GE, with Tesla, with all these other places, all these other companies.
Awesome, man.
That is awesome.
So, I mean, does anybody here do you want to have oh, sorry,
Julia's
Simon.
muted.
Oh, sorry.
So you should come out in March to the Biomed Expo. I'm presenting at the Biomed Expo, but it's in LA, like March 24th, 25th, and 26th. They have an expo and like a lot of healing stuff. It'd be great.
Yeah. 100%. Well, yeah, we'll get on it. I'll talk to Hunter, and I'll have him jump right on it and go ahead and schedule us a booth. We're doing the CBD and marijuana growing expo in Nashville, Tennessee. It's actually on our website, Andres. If you could pull it up, if you don't mind. It's
I
Real
want
Rife.
to go there. Can we go to Nashville?
It's
what's the website?
realrifetechnology.com.
I want to join. Come to Canada and take me back.
Oh wow, this is a slick
Bernie,
site.
come to Nashville. We'll pick you up on the way. Does that
Man,
work?
you definitely did some nice updates here. This looks beautiful. This is a really nice page.
This is smooth now.
Yeah, I like
I
it.
remember I saw
and there's
you
a lot
about
of amazing things this
a
can
month
do.
ago when your TikTok was out and about when you were first going, and what happened to that?
TikTok's been amazing. I'm still doing it. It's just that I have so many different things going on that I can't focus on TikTok a lot. So these are some of the documents. But
dude, right available for the public on realrifetechnology.com.
Yes.
I mean, come on. How do you beat that? That's amazing.
This is awesome. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. This is like the truther's dream.
Oh, there's so much more.
Gravy.
I have an entire chest of drawers full of papers and everything. I have the original LLC papers for Beamray. I have all the communications, telegrams. Yeah, I'm just going to be releasing it slowly on our newsletters.
Doesn't have those.
Hey, let the FDA come at me.
Microscopes, maybe.
So I have all the microscopes, documentation, all this stuff.
Because that is something I'd really like to bring back.
So that one page that Andreas had pulled up, it is actually the blueprints for the universal microscope. It's one of 3. But on there, we have a show schedule somewhere.
That I clicked, or
Check this out. Go to Resource Center and go to Research. I post all of this stuff for people's knowledge. These are all clinical studies that are posted by the NIH. These aren't our clinical studies, but they're all about EM fields and EL at extremely low electromagnetic fields, pulsed electromagnetic field. Olivia, it's in intervitreal disc. Dude, it's all this information is out there. I'm just compiling it all.
That's exactly what we need. Yeah, we're going to reform education with a lot of the stuff too, and science and post-secondary stuff for
I've actually read
treatments, MDs. This is incredible stuff.
So yeah, what are you saying? I'm sorry, Nathan.
So I actually herniated my L5 disc, and I underwent EMF therapy on my low back for about 6 straight weeks. And I didn't need surgery because of this.
Yep, I did the same thing.
And EMF, yeah, and it's a simple 10-minute a day course, which is it's rather insane. But biophotonics, once again, here we go.
So I actually had a herniated disc between my L5 S1. They were wanting to fuse it together.
Yeah,
and I was like, forget that. And so did my business partner. He started using it in 7 days, dude. I just crushed a disc in my back. I crushed it, like literally crushed it. Went and got, exams and x-rays, and the chiropractor's like, yeah, that's crushed. I'm fully walking around today, and this was just a couple weeks ago.
So I have L4 and L5 crushed discs, and if you guys are doing something that's effective, because I got like the back to life off the infomercial.
Spinal decompression therapy will also feature EMF therapy. And they have their own regulatory board, and they've had it for 60 years. Insurance doesn't cover it because, the corporations don't like to call it anything but experimental. And so there's been a long-standing legal battle in this industry to try to get insurance to cover this because it's well established. It's older than chemo, and it's more effective than surgery.
So my objective is to actually take over allopathic medicine and overthrow it. And they'll always have their clientele, and they'll always have their people, and they can do all the advertisement that they want. I work more like a spiritual love situation. I want it to be grassroots pretty much. And I want to be able to start a sister company that's a 501c3, throw a little crypto at it, call it a Rife coin, get people to buy it. If they make money off of it, they can invest the money's made back into the 501c3, and then we can benefit people who cannot afford a session for clinics, for Rife clinics, and just let that pay for the doctors and everything, and for the people to come in and use it.
That's exactly what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is insane. What do you guys think? Do you have any questions you want to ask Matt about the Rife technology or EMFs?
When's the Rife coin out?
And also in the audience, if you guys have any questions
coin.
you want to know about this stuff, we'll do our best to see if you can answer them.
So she asked about when the Rife coin's coming out. I have a guy, his name is Hugo. He's a crypto guy. I don't know if anybody's on here crypto. I don't know how to program crypto.
I do a real bit of crypto.
I'll still buy it. Even if you don't know what you're doing, that's great.
Rife coin.
I want a Rife coin for sure. Like
buy a Rife machine. I'll give you guys a discount code SHOP, SHOP. It's 10% off across the entire board. I'm doing a mixture of, it's not really electroculture, but I'm building stuff for plasma generated ionized jet propulsion for splitting the nitrogen molecule, just like lightning does, where it splits the nitrogen molecule in half. And then you got 2 nitrogen atoms. That's literally fertilizer. It sticks to plants. I can grow like a hemp plant 35 feet tall to where you need to be able to cut it down with a chainsaw. That one hemp plant, just imagine how much product that can make, as in paper, as in clothing, as in, different, I think, foods. I'm
using
not sure.
Frequencies? Like, are you using?
Well, so I'm doing.
Okay,
I'm doing EMFs, a little bit of electroculture, and I make something. We call it a garden star right now, but I can make a larger version. But it's a giant coil. It's a copper coil that I tune specifically to the Earth's frequencies, to where the sinusoidal waves will be able to pick up on EMFs, and they go throughout the Earth, and it stimulates growth.
Yeah.
So you're looking at wave propagation. Are you doing atmospheric electricity?
Yep.
Like
I'm doing
above the plants?
so I'm doing plasma generated, and
Okay.
I'm gonna do the antenna as if you look up the nitrogen molecule, it's it's bonded by 3.
Yeah.
And so I have to be able to build the antenna just like that, but I have to run certain frequencies to be able to do like lightning does. Lightning strikes, it splits nitrogen, and it creates nitrogen atoms, and those nitrogen atoms are fertilizer that fall down to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it's going to be something like that. And what I'm doing with this is I'm actually going to grow companies, probably out in California or Colorado, if I can get in touch with any. And I will exclusively give them the rights to rent it. And only thing I ask is whatever their yield has been throughout the years and what their normal average rate is, I just want 20% above of what they do above that. So there's no risk.
Oh my
That's pretty cool.
god.
I like that idea.
Well, that seems fair. I
Yeah,
mean, what the hell?
there's no
Really?
risk, but
I'll
I'll
do it.
multiply their yield by 6 times, and you can also adjust your
I
sea
believe that.
levels. You can
It's the
do the
fairest business
turpentines. Yeah, I mean, it really is. There's no
You gotta
risk
talk
to
to
it, and I
Bo.
will give them exclusive rights. And what I'm going to do with the money is I'm going to take 5%. I'm going to run it through my guy who does a lot of health and growing things, and he's working up on gardening to be able to help all the agricultural communities. And I'm going to give him 5% of that. We're going to take 10% for the business, and the other 5%, I want to build a clinic for veterans that are enlisted and discharged so that it's fully funded so they can always go there and get free healthcare.
I have too many questions for this stream, so I'm just going to go until we're done.
I would like to see this tested for breaking apart stuff like oil sands.
Oil sands. Can I see an oil sand structure?
So it is exactly what it sounds like. It's sand that's filled with oil, and extracting it is a huge pain.
They try to chemically break the bonds, and it's not very effective.
Yeah, I can break the bonds, I'm pretty sure, because I can make essential oils just out of my Rife machine.
Really?
Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to be able to oscillate the plant's oils and still have them be positively charged ions to where they do not die. That's a big thing with like extracting what is it, like dabs, I think, or like the oils out of other things. You heat it up so much it dies, but if you oscillate it out, then it'll just vibrate itself out.
No, Simon. That's actually a really good idea and a possible technology, especially like here in Alberta where we have so many of the oil sands. That's actually genius. Thinking of connecting those two, and also tomorrow, Rife, we will have you back. We'll keep going for like another hour here or so tonight, but tomorrow we should go into more of the agricultural side of it, and I want to bring up my monoatomics and the same exponential growth I've recorded with using some of the monoatomic gold in colloidal waters and combining the two technologies.
Okay. Now you can look up EMF frequencies running on agriculture and how it stops the salinization of water, and also plants require 20% less water to grow.
Yeah, so China has been on this atmospheric electricity kick for about 15 years in lands that they've seized in Africa, actually. Underground grow houses where they electrify the air, and they only use red phase light, and their grow results have been insane. But it's not necessarily a thing that I can do in my garage. So where your stuff comes
sure you
in,
can.
not to the level that they do.
So I designed a stand-up greenhouse that runs off of water alone, to where it has the same suction pumping to be able to transfer water from top to bottom as a toilet does. I forget the siphon system, but it's a siphon suctioning, and you run nothing but just like a very low voltage pump to be able to get it up to that high, to be able to pump the water from the bottom tray to the top. And it's basically an aquarium pump. So you have very little energy going into it, and that can make your plants just bloom. But what you need inside of it is you need to be able to create wind. Now, whenever wind grows across the leaves, that's what strengthens up all of the limbs and everything like that. It's a very good thing for plants to get wind because it helps them grow stronger. Now, that's the one thing, that's the reason I'm doing the ionized jet propulsion and blowing air through it while I'm separating all of the molecules down to nitrogen atoms, is because it's going to be able to provide wind and everything. But I'll send you the designs. I designed a greenhouse. I think I'm going to build it for a pastor here that it just rains all the time. It's like,
I would love to see that, because I'm out here in Washington State, and aquaponics in this area is it's not even necessary, but it's so widespread. So the combination of the two, I'd like to see that in action.
Yeah, so I did this so that people could grow in their own basement or in their own room, something that they, maybe they rent an apartment, and just put it up on the wall. And then, you got natural plants, you have all kinds of different oxidization, and it just helps a lot. That's my business partner, Hunter.
Nice.
Pretty sweet stuff, man. I mean, it's amazing how many fields that this can be useful in. Everything from agriculture to health to energy, weather. It's all the way through. And we've seen so many other descriptives used for the same technology just about, but in HARP or active denial systems. There's an evil version of it and there's a good version of it, but it just kind of proves a tool is a tool and it can be used for good as well as for evil. So all the stuff that we're the most afraid of seems to be the solution.
And I explain this a lot, and the fact that there's bad EMFs, that means there's good EMFs. If there's a bad, there's a good. If there's dark, there's light. There's always the opposite. It just depends on how you use the tool.
Matthew, I've got a quick question for you regarding your coils. You talked about in the last show about using 2 different gauge wires in your coil design. Could you briefly explain the reason for that?
Yeah, so Andreas, if you wouldn't mind pulling up Faraday effect, and it's Faraday rotation. I swear I get this wrong every time, but I feel like it's not wrong. But it's like 2 streams that are passing each other. Let me do it on camera. 2 streams that are passing each other. It's going to create like a little whirlwind in the middle, right? Yeah. So whenever they pass each other, then it's going to create a third EM field that's going to be a third the size, a third the power. The reason I use differential wire gauges is because if they're exactly alike, the wire gauge depicts and it dictates the size of the EMF that's coming out. So whenever those cross, if they're exactly the same, it's like hooking up 2 Wi-Fi routers that are fighting each other. Unless they're completely in sync, it's going to be an elimination of the wave. Now, with me using 2 different wire gauges, it has more of a thump and it has more of like a slick slide because we got a large, we got a small. So it starts that rotation like an alternator starts a car, and it turns a flywheel just to get it rolling.
Right.
That theory is well known in music. So the electric universe idea of a Z pinch and star and planet formation comes from this 2 intertwined magnetic streams creating a third. But in music, they called it the devil's note, and that's Scriabin. And 2 violins can play a note, and they're just off pitch enough that you hear a ghost note in the middle. And of course, sound is vibration, is electricity, is energy, is light.
Indeed, destructive interference is incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true. But the devil's note is actually a very specific frequency.
Yeah, it's a harmonic resonance. You can actually create it anywhere on the spectrum. Which
I could hook up coils right now and let's try it.
So let me understand. The devil's note is resonance. Is that what you mean?
Yes. So let's say somebody hits a C sharp and somebody hits, let's say, an A flat. you're going to hear the resonance of these two create a third resonance. And this is the devil's note. This is a ghost note in between. It's why violin duos and piano cello duos work out. You hear a note that's not being played, but it is there. Now, this is the same for electricity. And it can be any note too. It just depends on the interval in the harmonic resonance.
I never known it to be as the devil's note. That's an interesting way of thinking of it.
So Scriabin did this in a time when you weren't allowed to play unholy sounds, and music was largely run by the church, and he began to play sounds and find new sounds, and so it was described as the devil's note.
Ah, we see.
Okay.
So the devil's note was really just a note that the church was highly objected to because it gave the people power and the instruments power, where otherwise it was supposed to be dictated and passed down from those in authority to those who were in woe.
Can we look up devil's note frequencies and see what those two frequencies are?
Oh, it's any frequencies.
And then
any
after that,
so yeah, the thing about the devil's notes is like if you're playing in any frequency scale, then it's actually a fraction of the note that is the reference. So it's not really that the note itself is the devil's note. It's that in a chord, this would be of the fraction. That note would be considered a devil's note because of the angle.
Imagine, so imagine you
let me show you a piano.
You have a 1 and a 10. So
the devil's notes.
Note
guess what color they are?
Right in the middle.
And the infrared, no doubt.
But you actually can generate this with electricity, and you can actually translate them. Sound.
So if I could see like two examples, like playing this note and it equals this note, I can work out the math really quick and tell you.
That's Pythagorean theorem right there. Pythagoras worked this out before anybody else.
With electricity, though, people used to think that the third component would be what some would call ether, if I'm correct.
Oh, yes,
no?
sir.
Right.
As an interpretation, yes.
It's like the ether note.
It's actually kind of an interesting thing.
Right.
You cut this at this half point, if you cut this at this quarter point, there's a 3/5 scale in order to make an octave. And
Let's define. I mean, this is important. This is actually really important. Okay, so we have something called harmonics in musical scale.
Harmonics.
And if you have a second harmonic, it means you've taken your frequency. Let's say it's 100 hertz. You've doubled it to 200 hertz. 200 hertz is now your second harmonic of 100 hertz. At the 11th harmonic and a mixture of the first harmonic, you end up getting an interesting phase interaction wherein a momentum is generated upon any material that can interact with that specific sound frequency. But this is quite different compared to these field forces because the 11th harmonic is a cumulative effect in only cells and membranes and other physical materials. You can't have it independent of physical materials. It's a matter phenomena. But there is a phase-shifted phenomena. So let's say we go 360 degrees. Well, think about it this way. Pick a frequency within 0 to 360.
Let's do 285.
285.
Okay. What's that?
285.
285. Okay. So let me pull up my calculator. Let's actually run the numbers here.
Now, you have to remember, though, in music and in electrical, whenever you do the harmonics, it's totally different. So the EMFs and the sound waves, harmonics are different because what I'm doing is I'm going to be modulating a signal. It's more like a carrier wave modulated signal that's going up on it, and that's how it resonates. Now, music does have a different structure, but they call it harmonics the same.
Well, harmonics are harmonics. I mean, whether or not they be in sound or electromagnetic signatures, harmonics are still nevertheless true through and through. It's just that their medium is different. So in the case of sound waves, our medium happens to be atmospheric molecules, a compression chamber, a specific chosen gas, or in some cases even highly evacuated cylinder with electrons moving. We can generate acoustic harmonics with electrons only in a perfect vacuum environment. Yet in otherwise conditions, we're talking about the vacuum, and here we're talking harmonics within the fine structure constant. Those of the cosmic lattice, the fundamental structure that inhabits the universe and gives us the ability to communicate a field force from point A to point B. So yes, if we divide your frequency by that of our 360, we end up with a ratio of 0.7215 to 1. I'm shortening it. It goes on. And so let's just call it a 72.2 ratio. But there are better ratios, and the 11 to 1 is one of those particular ratios that has been well demonstrated to be capable of building up a amplitude over time, which generally doesn't start at the very beginning of the input for the transducer.
Now, and that's exactly what I was trying to explain, and you explained it way better than I did. It's in a vacuum because sound takes place through a compression, decompression, and it takes atmosphere to be able to do it. EMFs take no atmosphere. You can run it through the vacuum of space. Now, on my coils where I've designed them, I have the Fibonacci sequence, aka the golden ratio, involved inside of it. Then it works like a cochlea of an ear. It's going to filter a lot of different things out. It's going to produce pure frequencies that are not like 0.5 off or anything else. And it also goes up, I don't even know what harmonic level it goes up to, but I know it goes way over 11.
Well, to be honest, I can't think of anyone better to ask this specific question, but I'm going to ask you a very specific question here, and I'm pleading that you answer it as accurately and as detailed as you can. Let's say somebody has a certain type of cancer, and you want to spot treat that type of cancer. Let's say that it's gotten to the point where it is now malignant and in the blood. What frequency and coil geometry might be capable, and could it be done? I just want your opinion on it. I've gotten others, and I would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so this is something that I deal with a lot, and what it is, you're going to go to the tumor cell, right? You're going to go to the carcinoma. You're going to go to that BX, and you're going to find out what it resonates at. Now, and I explain it like this, just like with opera singer with a glass, you're going to match that resonant frequency of like that cancerous tumor, right? And then it's going to oscillate. Just like whenever I take a tuning fork tuned at 420 and I hit it, this one over here tuned at 420 is also going to start ringing at 420 and it's going to oscillate. So I'm going to oscillate that cancer. So this is all theory. We all know YouTube rules. This is not medical advice. This is just theory. I'm going to oscillate that tumor, and I'm not going to let those proteins align. So it's kind of like shaken baby syndrome for cancerous cells. Do not let those proteins align. It's not going to split off. If it does split off, it comes something that's called a daughter cell. Now, this daughter cell, just like the dead tumor cell with non-aligning proteins, your lymphatic system needs to be in good shape, and your body's going to process those dead cells out as waste.
All right, well, let's say that in this particular case, I know somebody whose lymphatic system is not in good case, and that they're basically 2 weeks away from having a treatment, which I believe will be putting them under serious health conditions and threat. Okay. Now, they have, well, okay, well, let's just say pray for somebody randomly who has prostate cancer, a random individual. 100%. And let's say they're an important individual in all this research, and they have done their due diligence and try their best, but they have a cancer, and it's not going to be easy to heal, and they only have basically a week and a half to 2 weeks to solve this issue. How would we fix it, and could we deal with it with only, say, 1.5 weeks, starting from today, to actually fix it before they go in for radiation treatment, which will poison their body and potentially put them under threat of death?
Well, I feel like in terms of dealing with a tumor, it's not just a question of the material the tumor is made out of, but also the geometry of the tumor. So I don't know if you guys have all seen when you put grapes or something the same size as a grape in a microwave, but it makes fire. So it's just a question of
the touching grapes and the gap between it's a plasma reaction
relative to the wavelength of the microwave.
I'll tell you, if you cut a precise antenna exactly the right wavelength for the 2.35 gigahertz of your microwave magnetron, then you're going to get massive sparks that will self-start at a drastically larger difference than 2 grapes. And yes, even a conductive object like a grape can pick up the field, but you can amplify that field far better with the pickup antenna inside the resonant cavity.
So hopefully it's not as big as a grape, but thoughts
It's
and prayers.
probably larger.
The first thing.
Yeah,
if
sorry,
it were,
Matthew, please go ahead with Jeremiah's question of it.
if this were me, this is what I would do personally, because I'm not a doctor. I can't give medical advice. Blah blah blah.
Understand completely. No medical advice here. Just simply.
I would go ahead and start grounding at night. I would go ahead and get these overly charged ions inside your body that you're getting from radio frequencies. Even cell phones start out at 900 megahertz. These are non-natural frequencies.
This gentleman, Rife, this gentleman knows all that stuff.
Okay.
He's been in this longer than I have. I mean, he's been doing this longer than I have. And I'm shocked that he doesn't actually have the access or the resources to already have known this. But he has been in a very different group, very specialized and incredible, remarkable, miraculous, but not our group. And so he does not necessarily have access to this tech. He needs something simple
where are
in
you?
a short time. I'm in Wisconsin, and he's somewhere center of the United States, quite a bit away from me, but easily within distance to deliver something.
I got a question, Matthew. When you said attack it through the carcinoma, I have the frequency sitting here. And do you mean the one for, like, excuse me, carcinoma colon? Or would you just go after, like, the whole kit and caboodle range?
He said prostate. Like, if I was going to go right, just flat out, I only have 2 weeks. This is my last hope. And this is just me. I would run sweeping waves 1 to 3 megahertz. And I would hit it hard, and I would up the amplitude as much as I could, but only to the point that I'm not going to be nauseous or have a headache. Now, that's a very dangerous thing to do. I don't suggest anybody do it. That's just me. And that's with like a last-ditch effort. I only have 2 weeks for sure. If you're in Wisconsin, let me send you a gold unit.
I may actually recommend that you contact me via email, because if it's something that's going to help,
I'll connect you guys up for sure.
It's not where I am. I mean, this is the very important person. I'll tell you off air who it is, but I don't have.
Is he in California by chance?
He's not in Cali, but he is in a state that starts with a C. It's not for me. I really hope he's a very important individual. He's done some incredible work in the past. In fact, if I were to mention the name, everyone here would probably know him. Unfortunately, he is dealing with it on a personal level, and I think that he really he wants to get better, but he's not going to drag anyone
I would
down.
look into the Joe Tippins information, the Joe Tippins protocol. He was given like 6 weeks to live, and he took, what was it, flubenzazole?
If you have any information, please send it.
Okay.
Post it in the chat for everyone else if you want to share it with the world. Post it in the private chat if you just want to share it with us. But anything that we can basically do to move this forward. Okay, I lost my buddy a while ago. I lost my buddy Mark Candlish, and it was a shame. This guy is on that same level. It's too early for him, in my opinion, and maybe it's not that way in the real world. I'm not sure, but I do know that if there's something that we can do to save this brilliant man who has done a tremendous amount to move forward energy technologies, anti-gravity, and the like, we should.
I think I know who you're talking about. I think I know this guy
let's just not say it, though, okay?
Yeah,
that's
fine.
Privacy.
Yeah, 100%. I just connect with me after this, and I want to ask you.
Well, here we go. Challenge accepted.
Yeah, I think we need to give him our best wishes, our prayers, if those of you out there do that kind of thing. And really, there's a technology that I know can fix this. I mean, there's no better group, really, that I've ever communicated with than those individuals right now who are listening to this, who can actually understand the tech, the magnetic fields, the electric potentials, and the fact that this directly communicates with the double helix strand of DNA and different parts of that, which are normally not active and can be, in fact, activated. So I think we can do this. I think it will have tremendous implications far beyond what we can imagine now. And we just need to put in the effort. And really, we need to believe in the tech that we've spent so much of our lives developing.
Well, I can tell you this. I'll do everything that I can to help this guy out.
We'll talk after.
Yeah.
It's a great thing, the idea that people are actually trying to come up with solutions, and that this technology, the first thing we're trying to use it for is to like help people instead of using it as weapons. I just keep coming back to that. I think it's important, this
application.
Stuff. Yeah.
Okay,
application
so Andreas, I know
matters,
you know this. Real Science, the movie. Or excuse me,
It's
Real
my favorite.
Genius.
It's my
Real
favorite
Genius.
movie. Real Genius.
Real
I knew what you
Genius,
meant.
the movie.
That's the funny thing. See, Real Science is a show we're on right
I know
now.
you know what I mean. Okay,
That's
so
the one where they made the girl.
no,
No,
that
that's
will be
Weird
Weird
Science.
I actually have
That's
this
Weird Science.
I have this T-shirt.
Weird
right?
Science. That's it.
This T-shirt. Fun fact: I'm a gorilla. And everything. This is the International Order of Gorillas shirt. Like, if you guys have ever seen like Alex Jones and gorillas, and you're like wondering what's the origin story of everything, there's the T-shirt that it all started with. But it's from this show before anything else called Real Genius, where they have to, as students, build a laser. Basically, this 15-year-old kid gets brought into a school where there's a dude living in a wall still, because he was the first student to be recruited, and then the next student, and the next student. And no one can ever finish the project. So it's like 15-year-old kids brought in to freak them out. And they finally build the laser, and they get to work, right? And it's like a helium argon, or it's like a...
Well, technically, okay. So if you guys, I just watched it yesterday, so I've got this fresh in my head. So
Thank God, I forget what kind of laser they use.
So the movie Real Genius is in fact about a group of unusually dorky individuals who were always top of their class and work on this laser project being funded entirely by the college that they're in. Now, his professor, unfortunately, the professor of all these folks, happens to be under a military contract and has gotten a fairly large compensation, large enough to build himself a super fancy home. And the geniuses behind, well, his military contract, they're eccentric experts in their field. Maybe not so social, except for maybe one of them, but these guys are superheroes in their own right, in their own categories. And so what they do is they develop a brand new technology wherein normally you could never push enough power through a stationary laser. You would have to force fluid cool it, or you would have to do something else to try and get extremely high power out of a small package. But they designed a portable package laser, something that weighs less than 100 pounds and produces over 6 million watts of continuous.
It's based on a real
power.
laser. It's an actual thing too.
Oh yeah, this is an actual technology. I mean, this movie was basically a disclosure. So they used a solid
for
$20.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They
used a solid
Ask
state
Google about
stabilized-
nitrogen. Let me just read the super chat real quick. Ask Google about nitrogenated water fertilizer, and it pulls out an OB1, i.e., these are not the droids you're looking for. Some links describe beer with nitrogen. Other claims that dog don't hunt, but no mention of plants. Thoughts, Rife? Thoughts on nitrogen and water fertilizer?
Nitrogen and water fertilizer. I would rather just use electrolysis and make pH balanced water, because you can do nitrogen and water, but what's the filtration system where it's going through? Is it only going to stay on top? Now, this is the nitrogen that I'm used to at the top left. It's pellets.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, but bat guano is really the best fertilizer.
Nitrogen rich, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, nitrogen monoxide will mess you up. Nitrogen dioxide is easily absorbed to plant roots. And of course, we all know about the classic dangerous material ammonium nitrate, which will be very stable under most conditions except for when percussively struck, and then it will spontaneously combust. Of course, there are many forms of nitrogen, but we know that plants need nitrogen, and the roots, and primarily in the root system, they need nitrogen in order to convert and produce photosynthesis. So nitrogen is a primary supplement and additive into most fertilizers.
Now,
also,
a big
you'll
benefit.
find nitrides in most of the hydroponic liquids that are sold today, and they do produce incredibly potent plants. which have been almost 3 times the size of otherwise ground-grown plants with the same amount of input photonic energy under laboratory conditions and approximately the same amount of water, 3 times the size.
The big benefit of doing this in the air, though, whenever you put nitrogen in water, you can burn a plant up by putting too much nitrogen in the water.
Well, this is why you actually add slow release materials into the soil itself, or if you're going to do hydroponics, you mix them properly.
Bromide. That's what it was. It's bromide.
But yes, this is a solid state bromide. So what they did is they figured out how to make a locked light state matter using a supercooled bromide mixture. And this is how they were able to laze the material and produce 6 million watts of output using a 15-second pulse that didn't burn up. They managed to freeze it in a similar material, almost like liquid nitrogen, but not quite. And they do explain it in the movie. I'm not going to go into the great details of the exact chemistry, but to say the least, this was something that was being worked on at the time the movie was being made, and they took that information and said,
yeah, I mean, definitely 20 years earlier.
This was what it would look like. And
it would have been 1968 at the latest, and this movie's 1981 or 5 or something. So like the 20 years later is when they start to make the movie about the thing. But the other thing to remember is at the end of the movie, is it a laser they used? Because I thought that they replaced the laser with an EMF cannon because they changed.
Nope, it wasn't an EMF cannon, Andreas. It was actually a solid rod, almost like a ruby rod of this solid state super cooled or liquid nitrogen cooled bromide material that was.
This doesn't burn down the house; it just pops. They fill the house with popcorn, so the entire house fills up with popcorn. Or it's just
they
corn.
took a 10 foot by 10 foot by 6 foot tall cylinder of cheap material and filled it with popcorn. Made it like a Jiffy Pop by putting aluminum foil over the top, and aimed the laser at the house. Of course, they missed originally on the targeting system, but eventually it broke through the window and hit this giant Jiffy Pop container. And it happened to be that, well, their professor, the guy that was all locked in with DOD and military contracts, hated popcorn. So to get revenge, they put this giant vat of popcorn in his house, and they set it.
But it's also the interesting thing is he doesn't destroy the house by a laser destroying the house. The popcorn destroys the house, but the laser goes through the house, which is the interesting idea.
Yeah, it only lasts for 15 seconds, and actually 3 of those seconds were wasted on trying to aim the laser on its own, just based to the fact that they had introduced a false algorithm and tried to hack that system. I mean, they got on board the military plane aboard the military place in this movie.
God bless America.
You gotta see it though, man. I mean, if you haven't seen this movie and
I love Real Genius,
you love lasers, photonics, if you love a bunch of nerds basically nerding out about all the technical details.
If you love what you're watching right now, this movie is for you.
That's kind of what I was about to say.
One of my favorite parts were the stairs and the slide, and then it melted right to the exact time on the watch. I love that.
Oh yeah, they designed a dihydrogen monoxide sublimation material that was very similar in its behavior to dry ice, but in fact was actually made of water.
It's funny though because it's Americans laughing at a popcorn joke about a do, right? They're talking about, hey, look, the military have satellites that can shoot lasers out of the sky and destroy our houses. Ha 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 ha. I don't know. Gerald, do you want to, we're about 10 minutes before I want to start showing people's links and where they can get more of your content. Is there anything you guys want to share? But also, Gerald, do you have anything that you wanted to pull up? Because it looks like you're in your lab area.
Before we go to Gerald, I just have to, I was listening when you guys were talking about the cancer treatments and stuff like that. And it's that none of this is medical advice because it's still brand new technology that we're learning. There was one person that approached me about making the monoatomic gold to help their father who was suffering from a developed cancer. I agreed to it, but I warned that it could also potentially increase the rate of the cancer and
all kinds of problems,
amplify the effects at that point of it. And despite the risk, they did, and that turned out to be the case. Although he said that his father was like calmed and relaxed and like eased by using the monoatomics, but simultaneously it also amplified the effects of the cancer and accelerated the rate of it and the man's demise. it wasn't he was terminal before regardless, so it's like it was a sad loss, but at the same time we have to be very careful at what we're doing, because you never know if you're going to do more damage or good depending on the technologies and what the ailments are.
Absolutely. We can't just expect that everything is just a magical cure, and nothing is, we're not trying to be snake oil salesmen or anything, or pharmaceutical salesmen, which I think
now
would be
you've got the hot mic.
bad. Oh God, really?
Just
so
for
I
a
can
moment.
do it. Is it better now?
Been the first time I've heard it so far.
Should I hear? Is this better?
I started out with a hot mic. I mean, it was terrible.
God, I'll be here. How about that?
You're perfect
so here's
now.
what
You're perfect now.
Okay, good. Gerald, do you wanna show any of the stuff that you've been working on?
Not at the moment.
Okay,
I apologize.
We'll leave it tomorrow night then.
Yeah. Well, I'm right at the moment of completing 4 separate experiments, and I don't want to let anything out until they're all done and said and complete. So
for the exact same reason that Bernie just said with the monoatomic materials, that it had actually accelerated a disease. Unfortunately, even though it's fully capable of doing healing, it can in fact accelerate certain things when under the wrong conditions. And understanding the conditions that can cause damage are probably far more important, in fact, in the long term, than simply releasing a temporary technology that may or may not work. So we do want to understand the dangers. It's a rather important part of all this research. And if we don't do our due diligence, the last thing we want is for anyone to get hurt.
Exactly, right. And it's that specifically the monoatomics, at a time when your immune system is like healthy and good, or like overpowering what it's fighting, then the amplification the monoatomics will give to your body will increase it to help you. Where if you're at an advanced stage where your body's decaying, your immune system is weak, and the disease or ailment is strong and taking over, then the amount of energy that's getting amplified is where it then accelerates it and worsens the physical condition.
Right. So if I may, and I agree with a great sage in the live today, who said gold is not for storing, selling, or trading. Gold is for eating. He was right.
Absolutely.
Quite the genius. And so in that statement, gold has its purpose, but it is not a end-all be-all or a absolute solution. One must be thoroughly conditioned, body, soul, and mind, to intake the gold in order to get its full benefits. Now, I'm not on that level. I don't know when I will be. And so I can't fully take the gold. Maybe you are, and maybe other people in the audience are hearing this and saying, I've been training myself and fasting and learning the exacting needs of my body, and I think I'm ready to actually go this next step. And so for those who are, the monoatomic gold will take you there, but it is going to be a hell of a journey. It's not an easy one. You're going to go through some things. You're going to see some things that you may not want to see. They're going to be uncomfortable. So the gold is not for everybody. That being said, though, it's often misunderstood that it's somehow a fix-all solution, and that's not at all what it's about. It's about bringing your mind to a place where you can realize the physiological phenomena going on inside your body, and your mind and your body no longer have to be separated from each other in such a way that they can't communicate properly. And so the mystery and the disconnect is broken, and you can finally start to focus on your actual physiological problems and heal them for yourself. Unfortunately, that's a rather complicated task to go through, and yes, it does require several weeks of preparation and work in order to get your body to the point where it can handle that kind of, well, you could almost call it abuse. It's not normal for the body to go without food, nutrients, or certain sustenance for an extended period of time. And when you go throughout this process, if you read the ancient alchemical text, and if you read the ancient Kemet hieroglyphs and see what the process was, it looks like a pretty brutal thing to go through. honestly. I mean, we've all heard about ayahuasca journeys. Those are pretty short and sweet compared to this. Those are only 2 or 3 days, and most people end up throwing up when they do them. So that's something that most people can go through. I mean, you can pay money to go through it if you really want to. You might not have the best experience, but you're going to learn something whether or not you want to. But with this gold thing, you're permanently changing your body. It's not a temporary thing.
Bernie, what is this that you're showing us here?
So this is actually, you were playing some of Gerald's coil experiments, and it reminded me of a couple of videos I just uploaded on my Crypto Alchemist. And this is experiments with electrolysis going on, and magnets I put on this cap and where it floats to and gets attracted to, and it always sent, the magnet is at the bottom underneath the cap on this one, and it goes directly to the center between the two anode and cathode, which are both silver, which is quite fascinating to me. And then there's also another one where I did the video, or the magnet underneath.
I should show you how to do that, Bernie.
On the side here. And when it's on the side, it actually attracts to the silver coin, which was quite fascinating because usually silver isn't attractive.
That's interesting.
It's actually a really useful test video.
Nice.
So I've looked into some of this, and on the gold, I can kind of disagree that it's not only for eating, because I think it's a perfect catalyst to be able to collect electricity from the air. Because if you look up the Gauss rating for gold, whenever it is above the ground, it's like 80 newtons meter square, whatever it is. But whenever you bury it under soil, it's exactly half. So I'm assuming that, with this electrolysis, you have your solution in here, and silver is probably doing about the same thing, because silver and gold are both, what's it called? They're very similar within structure on the metals with bacteria.
Yeah. They're similar in terms of mass, but in terms of their anionic properties and the way that they act in the body, silver is active, and it can be quite reactive in terms of oxidizers and pulling contaminants out of the body. So this is why colloidal silver is well known to destroy other toxins, bacteria, viruses, and whatnot. Gold, on the other hand, is considered generally inert. You can create colloidal gold, and gold is not known to actually kill viruses or bacteria or produce any kinds of direct detoxifying health benefits. It seems to have much more of a spiritual aspect, more in the mind, and we know that the brain actually does collect and requires some process of converting gold into certain compounds.
The gold has been shown to help with, like, nanogold has helped misfolded protein folds, and so amino acids that are degenerative and then are mutating the same misfold. They've often found that gold can get in there, fix the fold, and cause a positive refolding.
It's a very different thing than colloidal silver. We shouldn't really mix these things up, because gold and silver act entirely different. Gold is a fairly inert metal, whereas silver is an extremely reactive metal, easily ionizable and easily broken down.
But the delicacy of gold is the reason why it's helpful for a protein fold, because it doesn't destroy the protein fold. It just helps it untangle itself the way like a cable untangles. Also, I wanted to ask before I start showing some stuff or some of your channels, Jeremiah, do you want to show anything from the lab? Is there anything that you have to show?
I do actually have some things set up, but I don't think I really feel like setting up the camera right now, so I think I'm just going to stay on audio only.
Rife is here. We're here. Bernie's puppets
we're going to be back tomorrow, right?
What I have to show is
for another 2 hours. Gerald,
what I have to show is less important than the general discussion of how we can actually heal, because that seems to be the primary theme of today. I mean, I hated to hear that a friend of mine happens to have prostate cancer, and it's a horrible thing. As I said, no name, but if you can imagine somebody important in this community, especially in the propulsion and gravity community, and pray for that individual, whatever that is for you, please do, because he needs all the help he can get.
With prayers for healing for this individual. 100%. And we'll talk privately, maybe a little bit more after we end the live here about what we can do. Matthew, if you don't mind sticking around for a little bit,
you're welcome to join
afterwards, if possible.
Let me show off. This is Exotic Propulsion, Jeremiah's channel. Make sure you're subscribed. He's putting up some pretty interesting experiments and some of his technology. You can't find better work. We love you, Jeremiah. And then also WP Gen Lighten for Truth Gerald's amazing work here, which he's doing coil research. He just put up a new video 5 hours ago. Tomorrow you're going to go deeper into this, aren't you? You promise?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I actually got something pretty neat to show. So
yeah, no, we're pretty excited. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, so these are some pretty important coil experiments that he's doing that are actually changing the way we look at what's possible with copper wire. So thank you for that. And also the realrifetechnology.com if you want to see Matt Rife's work, as well as all sorts of amazing stuff in the resource center that he just shared with us earlier, including his notes and Dr. Royal Rife's physical papers. So some papers that are available you can check out, like for the neon displays. Really cool stuff that you're going to want to see. But beyond that, the research is incredible. Like he said earlier, you've got PDFs from all sorts of papers that are just from mainstream science to some extent. I mean, scholastic research about EMF and its ability to help with healing and in medical and scientific research. So pretty exciting stuff right here. Make sure you go and check out some of the papers on realrifetechnology.com. And also, I think if I go to instructional videos, it should take you to, yeah, he's got the videos right here. So you can go right to the YouTube and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube as more videos come out. Epic. And then, Mark, you want to say something? Somebody.
The last thing I really wanted to throw out here, especially for this subject, is I want to thank the audience, because I'm seeing a lot of comments here, and I appreciate everyone who, even though I haven't said who he is because he's not explicitly disclosed this issue that he's going through right now. He is somebody that you probably know already, probably have seen his presentations, and a very important individual to us all in progressing this technology. And it would be a terrible shame to lose him, much like we lost Mark McCandlish. And so let's not lose another one. Let's put our best towards him, pray for him, and I do appreciate the audience reception on this, and those who are putting their good intentions, thoughts, or prayers, whatever it is that they believe, towards this. I'm trying not to influence any particular direction here. So thank you very much. I know that it's going to make a big difference, and ultimately what we need is to send him a coil system. I'm not sure how much it will cost for us to make, but I know that we have a very short period of time, let's say less than 1 week, to put something together and get it basically shipped out the door. Otherwise, he's going to have to go through conventional medical treatment, and we all know how that goes.
Yeah.
Get in touch with me tonight, and I will go ahead and process it, and I'll send you an email.
Stay on afterwards a little bit.
We'll just stay on after we cut, and that'll be cool. Let me finish showing off recent Tartarian's Brittany's channel. Make sure you're watching Brittany's
Go to the
videos.
shorts real quick. That's all that matters.
Okay, well now
there you go.
She put a bunch of these videos of me on her channel.
No, he's been watching a lot of synth vids.
1.3 thousand views, so I'll take it. But still, the point is, if you want to see Brittany's interesting conversations with people, she's talking with Julia about parasites.
Yes,
and
that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of really important stuff here. So make sure you watch Recent Tartarian. Subscribe to Recent Tartarian. Get her 1,000 subs.
But also, thank you for letting me come on tonight. This is really.
I like her music videos. Actually, Brittany makes some cool music. You don't even
Brittany,
know
you're always a fantastic participant. I always appreciate when you're on.
Absolutely, both.
Brittany and you and Andreas together are a heck of a power team.
Mark and Mindy or something.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, JuliaCommon.com also. Make sure you go to JuliaCommon.com, because not only is Julia awesome, which she is, but you can also contact her, which you might want to do if you're looking to get your, you want to have a remote viewing, or you're trying to figure out some part of your life and you need some help from a highly intuitive person, as well as a researcher, as well as a speaker. And you can go to the event, the Biomed Expo, which is in March, which is going to be really cool. Have a bunch of amazing speakers, and Julia will be at the center of all that. Like, she's on the flyer. Look at that. It's awesome.
Yes, she is.
And
it's going to be really good. Yeah, no, this is gonna be a really fun thing in
March.
Los Angeles, Century Boulevard. So everyone, if you can get to, if you're gonna do one thing in March in Los Angeles,
Come see
this would
me.
probably
Is that Shasta too or not?
No,
This is
Shasta's
LA.
in
When's
June.
Shasta? That's
Shasta's in June, and then Vegas is, and then the one in
for
Vegas
sure
is
Shasta.
September.
We'll
But
get in that
do you guys
mountain.
know Dr. Sam Osmanagich, the discoverer of the Bosnian Valley pyramids?
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna be there.
Sweet.
And yeah, I geeked out hard on.
That's gonna be awesome.
All right, I'm gonna have to come to that.
I know,
You guys,
it's like real life
do
Indiana
it.
Jones.
Join the Discord, tartarnova.com. Go to the Discord, become a member of the community, buy my merch, etc. And Crypto Alchemist, because we love you. Make sure that you support BurnEye. Send money to BurnEye. Send love to BurnEye. Just like foot massage, like certificates is also good for communists.
Major connect.
Absolutely.
And hey, if I may, ladies and gentlemen, to recommend, if anybody has anything to spare for this individual, that we can put towards getting him a machine to fix him, which I know we can.
That's Rife's talking to you right after the show.
Yeah.
It's about to happen. Rife's gonna get this. Rife's here with a machine for you right now. I know you can't believe it. It's hard to believe it's happening, but it's happening.
We're figuring it out afterwards.
If anybody wants to help support, the basic cost
in
of
addition,
production,
send Rife some money.
Please.
I'll just say it like this: you guys can use the discount code SHOP if you want to be able to buy a Rife machine. The gold unit that's going to go to him is going to be on my cost. I'll buy it and I'll ship it out to him.
Oh,
Base Matthew Rife every
my
time.
gosh.
He's an amazing guy. And we're going to be, the thing about it that's awesome is we've already been talking to Rife about how awesome it'll be to test these machines, to show people how great they are, getting in the hands of YouTubers that a lot of people watch, but also in scientists' hands that can do these crazy tests that really is going to impress people, sending profit, sending the mass spectrometer and all these different things. This is also that we can give you guys the best test possible. And we'll be working together to make this as real of a scientific objective measurement, and not just it isn't just YouTubers promoting like a bag of salt or something like that. We're talking we're trying to save lives here. We're gonna see how it goes, because we're not
actually a real
promoting medical
in a
advice,
short-term context where we have a chance to
our
see
lives.
some real
This is what we're
results. I
doing.
mean, this is a real situation.
Hope you're all right
where
with it, YouTube.
we can
We're
see
gonna
results
try
in a
to
short
do what we
term.
can do. All right. Well, and then Crypto Alchemist, make sure you subscribe. Everybody, Simon, I think you have the most beautiful face of us all. And
thank you. I appreciate it. I know I have the voice for radio and the face.
True.
Perfect.
Cool, Ethan.
We love it.
Yeah.
I
and
want
then
just
thank you, Bert and Ernie.
Quickly show between Bert and Ernie here. I'm gonna move my.
What is that?
Oh my god!
It's like a cinnamon bun.
Gun and both in this one, which is the
I'm always worried that the thing's gonna come to life and like start crawling out like an octopus of his
I know.
because at a certain point the
Bernie.
This grew from the monoatomics when I put my blood into the water, and it grew all sorts of crazy.
I really want to be like a supportive mom that's like, that's wonderful.
That's from your
Bernie.
blood?
But I'm also
the white stuff or what?
That's some Herbert West stuff right there.
Yeah.
I would like to refer to Jeffrey Dahmer to go ahead.
Thing is, we're not going to try anything Bernie's trying at home anytime soon.
I promise it's not a homunculus.
For now.
Can you imagine breaking into Bernie's place and seeing all this?
I can't wait till we go to Bernie's place.
Weekend
It is going to be like a
is
weekend
gonna
at
be
Bernie's.
The gnarliest movie with the actual homunculus version of Bernie. All right. Love you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Rife, we'll be here after the show. If you guys want to hang out, we'll still talk. And peace to the audience. And you know what? Love each other. Sounds good to me. Gerald, thank you for being here too. We love you.
Don't you go
We'll
anywhere.
see you all back tomorrow. All right.
Hey.
Live for
Where you
another
going?
2 minutes on my channel, and then for bonus, and then
Hi ho, Timothy Frog here, coming to you from Sesame Street News.
Don't run away.
Sorry, I
No,
had to do that.
not of all people. Come on, Mr. Rife. I mean,
Oh,
you're
I was
a hero
coming
in
back.
a lot of people's minds.
Man, I am just eating like a horse tonight. I went to church, got back. I've just not stopped eating. Like I eat half a 16-inch pizza. I'm looking at pie now.
Pie.
I love me
Everything's
my
better
pie.
with pie.
Oh, I hear
Cherry
that,
pie.
man, but it's hard to beat pecan pie and pumpkin pie. Those two types of
Oh.
pie
Pecan
are
chocolate chip,
unbelievable.
actually. Pecan chocolate chip. That's a good pie.
Pecan chocolate
Yeah,
chip?
it is.
Yep.
Oh,
Well,
that's
in
unbelievable.
Alabama, they grow nothing but pecans and brotherly, sisterly love.
So I got a question for you. I didn't want to ask it on the air because...
Well, we're still on
We're
the air.
still on the
I
air.
just
We're
want to know
on Bernie's
we're
channel.
on the air.
Oh, we're on the
Still
air.
on the air
Okay.
for another
Well,
5
then
10
I'll
minutes.
wait for off
Oh.
the air. I got a question for you after, Matthew. If you can stick around for a little while.
Yeah, of course.
It has
So
to do
any
with the frequencies.
after air / still on air questions, by all means.
It's a good thing I clarified on that, huh?
It's part of the
I was
show
wondering.
papers.
I was wondering if you actually try to bury your wire.
You know what? I can't
Funny
right
you should
now
ask
because
that.
where I'm at, it's like minus 23. So
So
I
in the
can't
summer.
bury nothing.
He lives in Winnipeg.
And that's
So,
Celsius. That's not
yeah.
Fahrenheit. Yeah.
God,
So,
man,
but
even in Celsius, it sounds bad.
Right? Oh.
Well, you
But,
can
this
jackhammer
summer-
your ground rod in. I mean, but that's pretty much where you're at there. You're gonna take some serious piece of industrial equipment and have to pound that thing in because you're not digging that ground up.
Well, I've got this perfect little island that's kind of off in the way, and I plan on
Is
going
it-
there and doing a whole bunch of tests this summer. I got a nice
Well,
big foil for that.
I wouldn't tell too many people because there was one certain guy that just ruined islands for everybody.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Go ahead.
So I just quickly wanted to show like this white area that's like grown into these stalactite, stalagmite sort of nanotubes. It was monoatomic zinc that could be harvested in like the first couple hours of running, and then after that it forms into these crazy structures.
I'm back. What I miss?
Bernie's showing us blood
Oh,
samples.
yeah. You missed
Yeah.
a couple of little close-ups, which you're going to get an even better view of now. And I haven't mentioned yet that I was playing around with the laser interferometer and found a way to get nice acoustics out of it. Turns out that if a stand I place it on happens to have a speaker anywhere nearby it, I can get a nice interaction between the photons and the acoustic waves.
Very nice.
BurnEye. So we get a wonderful resonant frequency based on the characteristics of the amplifier, but more so on the characteristics of the atmospheric pressure, temperature, and humidity.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. And it'll sit there and sing, producing all kinds of fun little tones and harmonics just by placing a tiny little solar panel right in the interference pattern in front of the laser beam aperture.
You should try a sound exciter.
Actually, I did. I took my cell phone, took it on the Sinaski tone generator website, and played it directly into the beam. Perfectly audible on the output of the interference pattern.
The exciters, though, they don't have any kind of speaker to be able to do the compression decompression. It's literally just the magnet and magnetic coil that goes back and forth. And if you can connect that with the laser, then it's going to modulate that laser to vibrate at that certain resonance.
Well, actually, we were working on something slightly different. So this is a laser interferometer. And I know you weren't on the last end of the stream that I showed this thing off, but this interferometer, it has two different beam paths, and each of them are precisely tuned per the fraction of a millimeter to be almost exactly the same. And the only thing that separates the distance between the two paths is the centimeter. So it has different wave harmonics as well, because the centimeter has to be identical between the two paths, and if they're slightly off, you'll end up getting blurry patterns instead of very sharp fringe lines. In any case, this thing is so sensitive that when you tune in the x-axis and the y-axis mirror, you get very distinct dark and bright lines. It's basically the double slit experiment, only here it's tunable. So this is effectively the Michelson-Morley laser interferometer. It's also used in spectroscopy and spectrography quite often. And this particular one is unique because it uses an entirely plastic acrylic table instead of using a metallic table, which means that I can bombard it with electromagnetic signals underneath a certain frequency that doesn't take into account the dielectric constant of that acrylic material, and expose it to very strong magnetic continuous fields and fairly high frequency electromagnetic fields. So you can actually see the differentials produced by gravitational red and blue shift from the input electromagnetic energy of outside systems. That's one of the things that really makes this stand out. Now, I try to instruct this to Falcon Space, and I don't know if he ever bothered to put it together. I guess he needed me to come out there or something to help finish it, but really they have everything that they need there. So it's a simple device to put together. And it turns out that the Michelson-Morley experiment, the original one, the main reason that they made a mistake is because they had too many claims in their first experiment and said they're absolutely certain it's going to work because there must be an aether drift. And of course, when they weren't able to prove it, they lost credit and credence and everything fell out the window. It turns out, though, that later, only a number of months later, they had started work on another experiment that was going to prove it conclusively, and they did measure aether drift. And that experiment was once again redone about 6 years ago from this date, 2023. I can't remember the name of the individual that did it, but Aaron M., the guy that works with Eric Dollard, has some video up on his channel talking about the new Michelson-Morley experiment. I may have my dates wrong there, but it's up on his channel. And anyways, what they did is they took the interferometer from sitting flat against the ground parallel with the Earth and stuck it on its side, showing that gravity itself is actually shifting, or through length contraction, the length of the X leg versus the Y leg. And you end up getting a very clear and definable interference pattern between the two just by simply rotating it through the gravitational field. So as long as the device is tuned, you can prove that gravity does have a shift. But here was the weird part. The shift wasn't directly down towards the Earth as expected. It turned out to be at 45 degrees. And Gravity Probe B that was launched by NASA years ago also found this same outcome, that turns out the Earth is dragging its gravitational field along with it. And it causes this ever so slight indifference in the angle of which direction gravity points in. So say if you drop something straight from above the Earth, dead center from where you're looking, it's not going to land exactly beneath you. It's actually going to be twisted with the Earth's gravitational field, pulled around by its momentum as it falls into a slower time flux towards the surface. And this is that gravitational frame dragging. That's one of those known things which we must understand if we want to produce artificial gravity or control energy or ground pump electrons or basically do any of these types of things. We need to understand the red shift or the blue shift that goes on when we physically control the electromagnetic aether by adding or subtracting energy in a phase conjugate way. We're talking about phase coherence. We're talking about quantum locking.
This had a lot to do with what Dave was talking about the other day, too, on the APEC.
Dave? Which Dave?
He was the one that was talking about, somebody asked him, are you saying that you built an anti-gravity device?
Well, we did design APEC and created APEC specifically for the purpose of giving the voice to all those who were not invited into the more academic communities. I mean, honestly, Mark and I were kicked out of Estes Park. That's why we started APEC, because it was just too darn academic, and we kind of we looked at each other after the conference and said, there's nothing special here, we can do this ourselves. And we knew that the day the man who was responsible for starting Estes Park came on to our conference, that it would basically be the marker of the end. And so we ended up having 2 other sessions past that point, but it did end up being the end. We just finished up and finally concluded after years. the APEC conference, and it's not the last one. There's a new conference is coming.
There will be more.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm also
and
starting Freak Conference, Free Energy Electrical Engineering Conference.
I really hate your naming on that.
I know you hate that, but 3/4 of people love it, so
I know.
Okay. I might make it
gotta keep in mind the larger audience.
I might do Freak meets Geek or something like that. We'll see.
Well, I'll say this: Daniel Foster coined this year, because last year we had Year of the Coils.
Hey, Year of the Coils is only 6 months through. We still have another 6 months.
I didn't come up with it until halfway through the year, but this year I didn't have to. Daniel Foster is the guy who coined it. This is the Year of the Fields.
Yes. Okay, I like that even more. So we will start Year of the Fields and continue Year of the Coil year 2, but Year of the Fields.
And just wait until we get to the phase conjugation episodes, because when we start talking about quantum superposition and electromagnetic fields, we're going to really get in deep into the gravity control, the healing aspects, and all of these things that come along with it. Quantum superposition is going to be the solution for all of our electromagnetic field propulsion problems. And it's not intuitive by any stretch of the imagination, but it nevertheless is quite present. And it turns out that it doesn't take much power to generate, control, or modulate. So we can do this with equipment that we have now.
So who wants to build a hydroelectric boat with me? Hydrogen motored boat.
Yes, exactly.
I know the perfect guy for you to talk with.
Tomorrow we're going to have to go deeper into all like the electrolysis and the different types of gases coming off of it, how to change the pHs of the water, because I've done it focused on the electrolysis from the ends of the monoatomics and the decay of the anode, essentially, and nanocoding, all of that alchemy stuff. But then there's the whole science of the water, the science of the gases produced, and so much more.
So there's a lot to do with the electrolysis factor when splitting the water molecule, because you want to create a dipole antenna that has the 106-degree split, just like the water molecule does. It's like a spatula that goes in there and just tears it apart. You can go with 1.5 volts.
Okay.
I'll send you the patent on it. There's a full patent within the U.S. Patent Office of the hydrogen-powered car and how he built the entire motor.
Nice.
Are you talking about Stanley Myers patents?
Yep.
Yep.
Wait, no, not Stanley Myers.
This
was, what was his name? It's on my Twitter.
There's been a few, I do believe.
If he's got one that's not Stanley that uses the same tech, I mean, we want to have it. So, like,
wasn't there a guy with a truck just before COVID that had done it, and then he got he was a security guard who got inadvertently shot in a robbery?
Yeah,
I think you're right.
This is the reason I haven't created the boat yet. There was a guy at the Boston Marathon thing that he was just in his garage and just accidentally got shot. All these people kept on getting bodied, and I was like, I'm just going to build a boat. And I thought about it. I was like, man, it's maybe not the best.
A boat, it's hydrogen on hydrogen, right? We'll just be like, it requires, for this hydrogen technology, it requires you to be on water, only then develop.
Hear me out.
Anywho, I'm going to end the live now, and we will be back tomorrow on all the channels at the same time. And
well, actually, give him 2 minutes. Give him 2 minutes to be heard out, because I know that people are wondering what he was about to say, and
document this
crucial information. Share with the public. So let's just hear him out for the next 2 minutes, and then go on in private chat.
Okay, ground effect vehicles. Technically, they are considered boats, as long as they don't go over a certain altitude. So, yeah. Ground effect vehicle.
Well, there's actually a difference between a boat and a ship. A boat, whenever you're turning it, it leans in, and a ship leans out. So the ground vehicles, hopefully they lean in. Here's the patent number if you want to pull it up really quick.
Yeah, please do. Let's post that in both the private and public chat so that people can look this up.
So if you want to pull up Google patents and just search this, and this is by Henry K.
Oh God, I guess
Puharich. Yeah, Puharich.
You're on it, Bernie. It's up to you. What's the number?
It's US4394230. That happened the day before I was born, July 19th, 1983.
So US 4394230.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm useless. Can you write it in the private chat and I'll just copy paste it? I'm
I
struggling.
put it in the live chat too.
Just type US in front of that and post the word patent after it. Oh, Anthony Williams is always on it. He's got
Look
it.
at that.
Thank you, Anthony. All right, got it loading. Boom. There we
Maybe
go.
you should let's pull that up. What are we looking
It
at
is.
here? Let's take a look at the images and see what we are looking at with this patent. Method and
Yeah, so I-
apparatus for splitting water molecules. Well, that
With
sounds
sound
pretty
wave.
relevant, doesn't it?
I can walk you guys through this if you want to go ahead and expand that out. So you got the 11 different
Full screen
pages.
that, Bernie. Full screen the images.
There we go. Is that right?
Well, it will be in a minute.
Oh.
I don't know if you're seeing
Oh.
full screen, but we're still seeing the
Here we
tiny
go.
image.
There we go.
There we
you go.
Now we got it.
So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory because this was 1983. He wrote everything out. And in one point of it, he actually explains, and he has like the different sound waves that he used. He set it up with a glass tank with sound waves in the middle so that it would split the water molecule. And then you'd have hydrogen outside, oxygen on the inside. Keep on running through it because you got your center electrode. You got all of these things going on. And I think that's the water molecule one. I can't really see it.
Well, I certainly like that last image we were just looking at a moment ago, where we're talking about the field forces and the valence band spins, and it looks like we were talking about how to strip protons of their electrons and split these
But
things
here it
apart.
is. It's uninhibited orbital interaction and water bond angle is 104 degrees rather than 90 degrees as predicted. So, and that's because it's 104 degrees within the water molecule bond. So this is what they were looking at in the beginning. You have to create a tetrahedral antenna. Keep on, go on to the next page. So you have hybridized methane molecule, CH4. Then you have hybridized ammonia. Then you have hybridized water molecule at the bottom, the H2S. So you'll see that it's actually 104 degrees of separation. So that's where you want to create your dipole antenna to be able to do this with the sound waves. Now the next page will show you a carrier wave and then it's modulated. So, and it's, I was wrong. It's 1.3 volts. I apologize.
That's it.
And-
So he's literally tearing apart dihydrogen monoxide with 1.3 volts at the correct modulation frequency by setting up his field angles.
Mm-hmm. This is the way I'm doing
That's beautiful.
nitrogen in the air too.
Now, is that for,
really?
Yep.
Is that for a hydrogen spark plug, or is that for the whole system?
So go back one page. Now at the bottom, if you can zoom in there, that is the Pearl chain of formation of hydrogen gas bubbles in component 3, as seen from above. The outer cylindrical electrode, and then the inner tube is the glass tube. So the outside is the electrode, and then you have the inner glass tube, then you got the center electrode. The bubbles are the hydrogen gas that's aligned so that when he's splitting it, you can see how it forms. And I think this is an above cut view.
That's awesome.
In terms of how you're doing it, Rife, I mean, what's your approach? Are you using a geometric coil in order to create the right field geometry and angles in terms of your knowledge of this system? I mean, is this something that you've tried to attempt, or is it something that you came
these are all
across
things
and
that I've done.
realized? Well, I know it's been done, but have you ever pursued this personally? Is what I'm really asking.
Yeah, I've done this on the the nitrogen, splitting the nitrogen molecule. So I do it in a similar fashion. You know how nitrogen molecules are bonded on 3 chains? Then that's how my antennas are built. And so I have them cross-patterned across each other, kind of like a plaid design. And I have one of it to be my negative. And, it's a larger electrode to where I'm producing plasma and I'm shooting it through. So it has an ionized jet propulsion to be able to blow everything through, and it's
really?
splitting all the nitrogen as it goes through.
Well, you know, Mr. Rife, I'd love to see if you happen to have in your location that device so that we could all kind of take a look at it.
Yeah, this is going to be the device that I'm going to be funding a lot of stuff off of. And this is what I was talking about. I'm going out to California. So I got a business partner and everything. So
do you have a prototype there that you might be able to maybe show off, even if it's kind of crummy?
Not here. I'm 10 hours away from home. I'm visiting family right now. I'm on vacation. First time in a long time.
Well,
Seriously,
unfortunately
though,
for me, I'll have to catch you another time.
If you can break apart oil sands more efficiently than the current methods using this, you will be very wealthy.
I am in Calgary, connected to all of the companies in the oil sands. I got lots of friends working high up in these companies with the billion-dollar oil sand projects, so I would be able to get those contacts for you in no time.
Because the stuff that we have up here is sweet crude, so the good
Yeah,
stuff.
if you guys want to send me some samples of it, I'd be more than willing to go ahead and run some experiments and break it apart and see what I come up with.
Absolutely. And we can talk about more of all of this tomorrow on tomorrow's stream, same time. All right, ending this now for the live, and we'll be back at the same time tomorrow.